What is up, Pitt fans? Thank you so much for tuning in to Inside the Panthers on YouTube. My name is Stephen Thompson, coming at you with another Inside Pitt postgame report. Panthers have just fallen 73-81 in what is really kind of the official ACC opener, the start of ACC play. I'd really say they had that standalone game against Clemson, but they traveled north to Syracuse today and ended up losing by 8 points in a game that I thought was really winnable, a game that they needed as they stare down a really difficult month to open ACC play. And there were just a lot of things that went wrong, but the Panthers, it felt like, gave away an opportunity to get this really difficult month started on the right foot. And just it was controllable mistakes. It was unforced errors. It was things that the Panthers can really control, and it was in their own hands. And I don't think they lost to a team that's much better than them, but they are one of those teams that's in the middle of a crowded, kind of middle of the pack in the ACC, one that gets even denser with, considering that Notre Dame really blew out Virginia today. You kind of maybe knock down Virginia a peg from that top five, uh, uh, that upper echelon of the ACC that we thought they might be in at the beginning of the year. Maybe you move Notre Dame up. Maybe they can surprise some people. But like I said, it's just getting more crowded, and the Panthers, as one of those teams in the middle of that really crowded logjam in the middle of the conference, just can't afford to lose games like this. And that really puts them behind the eight ball, as, like I said, they stare down a really tough month to open ACC play, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But I want to talk about, kind of the first of three really big problems and really, really glaring issues that all combine to make it a really tough day at the office for the Panthers. And that first one is, I think, the play of Ish Leggett and Blake Hinson, the team's two leading scorers. I'd argue they're two best players this year. Hinson, obviously, and Leggett, you can make the argument it isn't as good as Carrington, but I kind of fall on the Leggett side just because of typically how many different things he can do and how steady he is. And Hinson, kind of for the same reason, he's a dependable scorer. He's a good rebounder, but both these guys were just none of those things today. They combined for 16 points. They shot 5 of 22 from the field, just 1 of 9 from 3-point range. They made only 5 of 9 attempts from the free throw line. I mean, that was a problem that the entire team shared, but those guys exemplified it the most, or just as much as anybody. And then they just kind of failed to. I mean, the scoring is one thing. Like, you can go cold from the field. This isn't the first time we've seen the Panthers do that, or see these two players do that, have some poor shooting nights. But usually when that happens, they are impacting the game in a number of different ways at a really high level, and they didn't do that tonight. They only had 7 rebounds between the two of them, no assists. Excuse me. Hinson had 3 turnovers, no blocks, just 1 steal for Hinson. Hinson fouled out, committed 5 fouls. And these are guys who are playing 30 plus minutes a game. They were combined minus 17 when they were on the floor together. Just really nothing to latch onto at all from this game for either of those guys. And, no one's more disappointed than them. I think they know what their role is on this team. I think they know that they've got to kind of carry this group, and they've got to be the ones who are consistently good night in and night out at something, and like they don't have to be the leading scorer every time. You've got Bub Carrington, you've got Guillermo Diaz-Graham, who's capable of exploding for a nice offensive day. Same thing with Jalen Lowe, who can give you some nice things, but just none of that was there. And look, Pitt did a couple different things badly today, a bunch of different things badly today. They also turned the ball over a ton. Like I said, they didn't shoot free throws well, but when you have Leggett and Hinson, kind of your two biggest stars, also not playing very well, not shooting the ball well in particular, you can't survive all 3 of those things. You can maybe survive 2 of those, but you need something to kind of latch on to, and you need something to hang your hat on as you kind of when things aren't going well. And the Panthers just didn't have any of that today. And so I think free throw shooting might maybe be a fact of life for this team. They might just not be very good free throw shooters. Same thing with the turnovers. I kind of expect that to improve, but this is a young team. This is a team that, even in the front court, is not particularly strong. Like I said, they're young. So turnovers are, I think, something that you're going to have to live with from time to time as well. But with those 2 things kind of understood, you need Leggett and Hinson, your veterans, your leading scorers, your stars, your leaders, to be consistently good night in and night out. And I know that's a lot to ask of them, but look, that's the reality of the situation. That's how this team is built. That's the roles that these guys took on when they decided to, Hinson returned to Pitt, and then Leggett transfer to Pitt. These guys, they got to be stars in order for Pitt to win, and they weren't today. Moving on a little bit, like I talked about, there were three big things that I want to touch on that really, I think, set up Pitt for this loss. Second one that I want to touch on is turnovers. Look, Pitt, and they said this themselves in the post game, they were just kind of weak with the ball. It was too easy for Syracuse to poke the ball away. That's true for the guards and the front court. It was everyone up and down the line. I believe 5 of the 9 players to touch the floor committed at least one turnover. 1, 2, 3, 4 committed multiple. 3 committed 3 or more. It was just not good. Not good from top to bottom, and it was 15 turnovers to just 12 assists. And every time the Panthers, I thought, played some pretty good defense. I thought, for the most part, their defense individually was not awful, but it was made to look much worse when they committed live ball turnovers, and the Orange were able to do what they do best, which is play in space, get out and run, take those turnovers and turn them into offense. The Orange scored, I believe, 16 points off of turnovers. They scored 20 points off fast breaks. Pitt just gave them way too many opportunities to get easy looks at the rim, and the Panthers just weren't able to keep up with that. And every time they had a chance to kind of make an inroad on what became a pretty sizable lead in the second half, they just committed a boneheaded turnover that killed any momentum that they might have been able to build. So, you can't do that. You can't turn the ball over 15 times and expect to win a game, especially when, like I pointed out, so many other things were going wrong. This is just, and Will Jeffers kind of said it pretty plainly. I saw a quote from him that's just, this team needs to grow up a little bit, And like I said, they're young. I expect them to be better than they were in this game, especially handling the ball, considering that Bub Carrington and Jalen Lowe are they're 2 of their primary ball handlers, and they were, and they're freshmen. It's a lot to put on them, and they're still kind of learning on the fly, but uh, we've progressed in the season enough that I think we can kind of expect some better results from this team. And it's a team that doesn't turn the ball over very much to begin with. I mean, they average fewer than 10 turnovers a game. That's among the top 20 fewest in college basketball. So in some ways, this was kind of abnormal, but we've seen Pitt kind of not be strong enough in the face of pressure, which is something that Syracuse does really well. We've seen them, be that way before, and it's pretty clear that there is a certain scouting report out there, and there's belief out there that you can be physical with this team and you can turn them over, and they start to unravel once you do. So it's just another example, another kind of data point of if Pitt can't take care of the ball, then they're gonna have to. Then they're probably going to lose. And I mean, this applies, up and down. I mean, Bub Carrington had 5 turnovers, but Blake Hinson had 3 as well. Cameron Diaz-Graham had 3. Zach Austin had 1. Federico had 2. Like, just up and down, it's hard to run offense when there's so many guys and so many guys who are so crucial to running the offense that just can't hang on to the ball. And the other really glaring issue, and one that we've kind of talked about before, but is kind of, it's one of those things, another one of those things that's just, it's kind of getting late early. It's one of those things that you just expected to be better at this point, even if it was a low point to start the year. But the free throw shooting was horrendous today. 11 of 24, 45.8%. At a certain point, you start to realize that opponents are kind of doing a hack-a-shack thing on the entire team. It seemed like it was just Federico at one point, but only 2 players, shot better than 50% from the foul line. I think the best mark was Blake Hinson, who shot 4 of 7. Oh, no, Carrington, 3 of 5, but Hinson made 4 of 7. It was just, it was really bad. And I mean, it killed, just like the turnovers, just killed any chance the Panthers had to make an inroad on what became, I believe, a double-digit lead a double-digit deficit, in the second half. They just, couldn't hang on to the ball long enough to run competent offense, and then even when they did get looks at the rim or opportunities to score, they couldn't convert the free throws that would have really put some pressure on Syracuse. And the Panthers came in shooting just, I believe, under 70%. I want to look up the actual number just to make sure I have it. They came in shooting 68.4% from the line. That's 263rd in Division One. That those marks are only going to depreciate for the Panthers after this kind of dreadful performance. And Jeff Capel said after the game that there's really not much else that the coaches can do. They practice this stuff all the time, and at a certain point, it just comes down to knocking them down in the game, having kind of the mental toughness to, even if you're tired, even if there is, a big crowd there trying to distract you, that players can just step to the line, remember their fundamentals, and knock them down. It's not a satisfying answer, but and it's not enjoyable to watch a team miss that many free throws, but this is just kind of the reality. Until Pitt doesn't in a game, nothing's really going to change. And this is a team that likes to get downhill. I think they're better attacking the rim than they are shooting the three ball. I mean, they shot it really well today, but I'm not sure how consistently they'll be able to do that and lean on it in that way. So I think free throw shooting has to be a bigger part of their game going forward, and they have to, be able to convert at the free throw line to make teams really pay for playing aggressive defense on them. That's the other thing. That's the other side of the physicality for Pitt. They have to not only handle that well and keep the ball alive and not turn the ball over, but teams are going to foul them when they try to play aggressively. So Panthers, if they can't convert those free throws, if they can't be better there, they won't really make teams pay or deter them from playing up and putting pressure on them. A couple other kind of just residual notes that I want to touch on. I mean, Jalen Lowe, I think, continues to be really excellent for this team and play really well. He didn't have a turnover today, but had 4 assists. He scored 9 points, made a 3 of 8 from the field, 2 4 from the line. Just lots of good stuff. I mean, I think he was one of only 2 Pitt players to have a positive plus-minus when they were on the floor. It was him and Guillermo Diaz-Graham. Excuse me. But it's been a pretty solid past, I want to say, 3 weeks, 2 weeks, really ever since I remember thinking in that West Virginia game, just that Lowe has really come a long way and has really started to find an offensive game. He's really growing as a player, getting more comfortable. And today was another example of that in a game where it felt like things were really chaotic and just nothing was going the Panthers' way when they couldn't really hang on to the ball. Lowe was a really steadying presence, and I think absolutely earning himself more playing time and a bigger role in that offense. They can absolutely trust him with more, and he's made them a lot deeper with his improvements. By that same vein, I mean, Zach Austin shot the ball really well today. That's a positive sign. He was 3 of 3 from 3, added 4 rebounds as well. But, just think about that offensive game. If he, as he gets reinserted in the starting lineup like he was today, he's, I think, finding more confidence, and I think he's understanding his role maybe a little bit better, not trying to force things as much, but just being a steady presence and not trying to, I think, do too much. And I think understanding a healthy balance between being aggressive and looking for a shot versus making sure he's taking good shots and not taking things that are out of the flow of the offense. I also thought, despite the 2 turnovers, that Federico was really good today. 5 rebounds, 2 of them offensive, 6 points. Still missing his free throws, 0 of 2 today, and committed 3 fouls, but he had a shot as well. He was much more of a force on the boards today, not just rebounding, but blocking out and creating space for their guys to dive in there. He's another one, just like Austin, got benched and I thought responded really well. And you were kind of waiting to see him do it against, Power 5 competition, a little bit up more high level talent and competition. And I thought he did that today. I thought he stood up really well. It's a Syracuse team that doesn't have a ton of size, but I think he did what he was supposed to do, and he's shown some marked improvements since he was benched a couple weeks ago. And then, something I alluded to as well, though, there's a tough road ahead for the Panthers, and that's what makes, I think, dropping this game kind of particularly, I don't know, bitter if the right word, but just leaves an extra sour taste in your mouth. And just looking ahead, I mean, they host North Carolina on Tuesday. That's a top 10 team. They get a little bit of a respite, but they've got to go on the road to face Louisville. I mean, road games are always tough, no matter the opponent. But then you host Duke and Syracuse again the week after that. And then you got to travel to Duke, and that starts 3 in a row, beginning with that road trip to Duke. And then you go to Georgia Tech and Miami, and then host Wake Forest to wrap up the month of January. It's a brutal front-loaded stretch for the Panthers, and just dropping this game, which you felt like was winnable, which felt like was one they needed to kind of keep their head above water in a crowded ACC. It's just it's just tough to kind of take this one on the chin and then look at all the teams that they have in front of them and the difficult games that they have in front of them. I mean, 4 of these games, 4 of their next 8 will come against teams that are ranked, that are receiving votes in the top 25. 5 of them will be on the road, including this one against Syracuse. It's just not a favorable schedule during the month of January, and the Panthers didn't get themselves off on the right foot, and it's a tougher hill to climb now that they've kind of dug themselves this 0-2 hole in ACC play, and if they want to kind of compete for the top of that conference, if they want to compete for another postseason berth, they're going to have to really turn things up, and they're going to have to win some difficult games moving forward, because this is a winnable one. This is supposed to be one that they could kind of bank on. Not necessarily bank on, but one that was definitely easier to get than Duke or North Carolina, and they dropped the ball a little bit, and they shot themselves in the foot, and now they got to lie in the bed that they made for themselves. But with that, I'm gonna head out of here. Thank you all for listening to another Inside Pitt Postgame Report. My name's Stephen Thompson. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube. That's youtube.com/@InsideThePanthers, and read all our reporting at InsideThePanthers.com. Appreciate you all tuning in, and I'll see you next time.